While in deliberations, following a 7-year battle with Chris Dugan versus Tesla, a juror comes out and asks if they can get a different calculator because they need one with more numbers. What does that mean? The motorcycle accident occurred on April 25, 2017 in Indianapolis. The case is a very interesting story, especially if you have any type of a personal injury case going on yourself with pre-existing medical conditions and wondering how that will come into play with regard to your settlement. This lawsuit includes the plaintiff on a motorcycle and a collision with a Tesla car. The history of this gentleman is a factor in the case, as this was not his first accident with a motorcycle. He had been speeding around a corner and lost control of his bike. He later had another incident involving a collision with a car at an intersection. In this prior case, the driver was at fault, but the motorcyclist was the one who bore the brunt of the impact. His injuries were more serious this time, leading to a lengthy recovery period. Fast forward a few more years, and we find him involved in yet another accident. This time it was a hit and run. He was left on the roadside, battered and bruised, with a fractured leg and a long road to recovery. These injuries did leave him with permanent damage, physical and psychological. Chris's pre-existing conditions from a prior motor vehicle accident included a brachial plexus injury, leaving him unable to lift his right arm, as well as a traumatic brain injury. And then, the Tesla accident happened. This was the accident that would turn his life upside down. The incident occurred at a busy intersection. The plaintiff braced for impact and collided with the Tesla car. The aftermath was a swirl of confusion, injury, and the deafening silence that follows a catastrophic event. This motorcyclist sustained severe injuries. Like most cases, the insurance company and attorneys asked the questions: who was at fault, and could this have been prevented? It was the beginning of Tesla having a change of attorneys on their end 4 times during their 7-year battle with Chris Dugan's accident. As the opening statements were made, the stage was set for a battle unlike any other. Tesla, a giant in the automotive industry, was going up against a man whose life had been irrevocably changed by an accident. The first few days of the trial were marked by a flurry of activity. Lawyers from both sides presented their arguments, each trying to paint a picture that would sway the jury in their favor. The plaintiff's lawyers argued that the Tesla vehicle was at fault, while Tesla's legal team sought to shift the blame onto the motorcyclist's previous accidents, trying to show a clear pattern in this gentleman's driving. It appeared that he had a clear pattern, but would that ultimately make a difference at trial? As the trial progressed, it became clear that this was not just a simple case of determining fault. The stakes in this case were high, especially because of Tesla being the defendant. On one side, we had the defense arguing that the Tesla car was operating as it should have. They contended that the motorcycle rider's past accidents were indicative of a pattern of negligent driving and that he was responsible for the collision. They presented data logs from the Tesla car, which painted a picture of the vehicle operating within normal parameters at the time of the accident. The rider's past accidents were eventually to be considered irrelevant by the judge, with the focus being placed firmly on the injuries he sustained in the Tesla accident. The plaintiff's attorney also brought Chris's past employer on the witness stand, sharing how competent he was in his position in the engineering field prior to the injury. His family also took the stand, including an ex-fiancé who shared their plans of getting married and how everything had changed after the accident. After 7 long years, the trial was coming to an end. The final settlement was a pivotal moment, not just for the parties directly involved, but for anyone keenly observing the case after 7 years. Christopher Dugan was dragged 19 feet from the accident site. He ultimately suffered a partial foot amputation, and medical expert testimonies stated that he had the functional capacity of a 10-year-old and the speech vocabulary of a 5-year-old from a traumatic brain injury. He also was experiencing periodic seizures. While the jury was deliberating, it was then that one of the jurors came out and asked for a calculator that had more numbers on them. The actual settlement stated that Chris was 30% responsible for the accident and Tesla had 70% of the liability. The trial ended in March of 2024 with the following damages. $60 million was awarded, but because the plaintiff had 30% of the liability, it was reduced to $42 million. Legal enthusiasts and observers had their take as well. The Tesla case was a fascinating study in personal injury law, product liability, and the evolving landscape of autonomous vehicles. The settlement for them was a critical piece of this puzzle, an insight into how our legal systems navigate the complex intersections of technology, responsibility, and justice. The plaintiff's traumatic brain injury and amputation will be permanent challenges for him. I think this case is very interesting in so many aspects, but especially because the plaintiff did have pre-existing conditions that were similar to the medical challenges that occurred with the Tesla accident. The expert testimonies and personal statements from family and friends played a significant role in this settlement, showing how his life had dramatically changed from what it was before the accident. I do not know the attorney firm that represented this gentleman, but their perseverance and diligence was well represented. I wish Mr. Dugan the very best in his future, and while money never erases injuries, it will benefit him greatly in his medical needs. Thank you for tuning in to our new channel. If you did receive any benefit from this, please like and subscribe. It's free and helps our channel grow. Thank you again.